All right, hey, welcome everybody. We're looking good. We've got everybody in and ready to go. Let's again take a look at our game plan into week 5. Ready to go, session number 9. All is well. Here is our game plan for tonight. First up on the docket, we're gonna do a little parts check and see what our plan is to overcome a couple of the challenges that we hit in our last session. Topic number 2, we're gonna go ahead and get into project number 1 review and kind of some question and answer. So I wanna make sure we have some breathing room in tonight's class so that we can answer questions and troubleshoot for you and make sure you're heading down the way. I see both Sierra and Spencer sanding and shaping their cool little mountains. So awesome. And number 3, we're gonna go ahead and, like I said, jump into project number 2, which is our wall frame and shelf project. And we're gonna try to hit those 2 points. A little bit of introduction to a new tool and jig tonight. Super excited. Pocket holes will change your life. I need to make a t-shirt because once you learn this tool, holy cow, we can build a lot of stuff. It's gonna be sweet. And then what we wanna try to do in part 2 there is actually get into the process of drilling those pocket holes and assembling our frame. Here we go. So we discovered last week that I did not package enough of these little bad boys into our kits, okay? I have since, and I'll just show you, quadruple checked the numbers and the quantities that we need so that if we do a second packet, AKA a cool little bag with your name on it, and I tin it to the library, then they can hand these out to you whenever you can pop in. So Shanna has set up with the front librarians the ability for us at any time the library is open. They know our adult ed students are coming in, and if your name's on it, you can just ask and they'll hand you this cool little packet. So here's what's happening. We're supposed to have 32 of these little bad boys to finish up all 3 of our projects. I heard a little bit yesterday or the day before when we figured all this out, everything from I'm missing 8 to like I'm missing 20. So what I need to figure out on a quick little survey is how many more on average do I need to put in these bags to get everybody done. Here we go. Let's pick up the next thing, which is time to show the parts and pieces that we have complete, and then talk a little bit about if there's some challenges or question and answer. So right now on our boxy bookends, we should have something that looks like this. So if you have that, can you please proudly display those in your video camera? Sierra looking good. I see mountain ranges. Shanna is looking sweet. And as you can tell, the matching set, so that we've got flat side of the mountain on one side, long side on the other, all is good. The world has been corrected. The plan has been corrected. Thank you very much to Elise for pointing and figuring that out, and then you guys being patient while we went through it. So I double checked with LB as well, just in regards to, was there enough information in the replay video? Oh my gosh, cool tree. Woohoo! Everybody look at Spencer's cool little modification. Okay, that's what you can do when you got a jigsaw, huh, bud? Jigsaw, okay, awesome. So what's super fun, obviously once we kind of get our skills rolling and different tools, we can start making some cool stuff, okay? Cooler, I'm gonna say. Ours are still cool, but now we got mountains and trees, and the working with this type of species, which of course is cedar, really nice to cut and shape because it's a soft wood. But like you can see, the grain and the texture that is in the wood, you sand this down a little bit and put a nice flat clear coat on it, and that grain just really stands out and looks beautiful. So cedar is a great choice. And this particular board literally was a 1x6. It was just like a cedar fence plank, basically. So man, if you could salvage or find some cedar fence planks, cut it down into chunks, keep it in your shop because you can make cool stuff out of it. So I'm seeing everybody in good shape. Rebecca just has a little more work to do. She's gonna cut the second side and then cut it in half. Super important tip, do not cut it in half until you got the second half cut and shaped. because it makes it real difficult. You don't have much material to clamp with, and it becomes pretty dangerous. And so that's why that step-by-step is there. Questions, you guys? Anybody need a little extra help? Questions on what's going on? Yeah, go for it, Elise.
Just a quick question. So I didn't attach these because I assumed we were going to paint them before we attached them, but I should go ahead and do it.
Yes, absolutely. The reason why we want to do that is so before you start finishing, you actually have all of these holes drilled, countersunk, and you've got the combination, the registration, in other words, so it will reattach to your left box and your right box identically. And then all of a sudden, when you get done, you don't have to worry about drilling and scratching your finish and clamping and whatever. You can kind of just set that on your workspace, drop those 2 screws, and you go, voila, it's beautiful and done. So another great reason why I love to use screws as our primary fastener. It gives us finishing options that we wouldn't have if we were to glue that or nail that or whatever. Now all of a sudden, if I want to change the color of my box, I've got to tear it apart and possibly damage it. So screws are an excellent fastener, so we're good to go. Great question. Any other questions, you guys? All right. I see a little hand sanding going on. It's very therapeutic, and so you can just kind of sit there and sand and have fun. Okay, let's...
Thank you for making your videos, because I did this all today.
Woo! That is an excellent input.
And
Good job, Mr.
thank you. And if you have the right tools, it's amazing. Flora, is that you that said good job? You're too funny.
Yes, that's me.
Excellent. Yeah, that's the hope, you guys. And then being able to, and I'm just going to share what LB shared, which was not only having the replay video to kind of stop, pause, rewind, but then the slide deck so that you could use the images and zoom in if you needed to see a little bit of the detail. Because as you can tell, you're like, oh, we're just cutting and shaping. No, man, if we miss a little cut here or we drill in the wrong spot, we end up having to get creative with our solutions. So having as many learning tools as we can, a live classroom, a recorded playback, and then the digital slides. I think we got a winner chicken dinner. So here is what we're starting next. Dun, da, da, da. Here was my demonstrator, which was obviously painted kind of a flat black and then stained the shelf a second color. And so options for finish, we'll talk about those later. This is just one idea. If you're decor or you want to hand this and use it as a gift, man, your choice. You could go 2-color paint, you could go all 1 color. The nice thing here too is we're doing the same deal. We're making 2 parts. We are screwing them together here and here, which means if I want to take it apart and change the colors of the finishes, no problemo. Back the screws out, change the color, put it back together. We're in super good shape. So that is what we are going to begin tonight, and we're going to be doing a couple of things. Introduce you first to the pocket hole jig, and then second, start the process of actually drilling and trying to get our frame assembled by the end of the night. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to reach into your toolkit and grab the cool little gray case that looks like this. And we will start talking a little bit about pocket holes. So if you're not familiar with that term, you will by the end of the night. Different manufacturers make pocket holes, jigs, and different types of things. Our manufacturer is Craig Tool. We've got a number of Craig Tool products here in the high school shop because, get this, out of all the vendors that I contacted, this is the only one that is offering a 60% discount for education institutions. 60%. Not 6, 60. And so when I see a manufacturer that is putting their money where their mouth is and they're willing to discount for authorized schools and educators, I'm like, I am all in. I've used their tools for years, but the bonus now as a teacher and a contractor, I'm like, I'm all over it. So there's my little plug for Craig, but here's one of the things they do. They actually listen to us builders and creators. Yeah, imagine that. Before they go start building products. Because the combination that's in this cool little kit weighs less than 3 pounds. And the little picture, if you're wondering why I'm standing in front of this monster shed, that's in St. Pete Beach, Florida. 2 months ago, family friend of mine calls and says, I don't have anybody that can build this thing. If I pay you to come out, would you build it for me? Blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know it, my brother and I are on a plane and we fly to Florida. And for 1 week straight, we build this totally custom design build shed. Well, you can't bring a lot of tools on an airplane anymore, just to let you know, because they think you're terrorists, okay? When I was building stores for Musician's Friend back in the early 90s, we were carrying Sawzalls, we had every power tool, and we were literally dragging them through the airports. It's hilarious. Now all of a sudden, you know, I had to check all this and make sure it could get through. And so I'm looking for super compact, lots of function in a little tiny package. This proved itself in that project, and so we put it in our kits for Mono County, and here we go. So that is my story. Now let's get into what this thing actually does. So what I'd like you to do is open that little kit, and inside the kit you will see the owner's manual. And so let's go ahead and just pull that out, and we're going to step through a few pages here so that we get familiar visually with what's going on, and then if there's a need to reference back to anything, you'll be a little more familiar with the owner's manual. Okay, so this is their J320 kit, and you can see if you kind of thumb through, there isn't page numbers, so just kind of go with me. Page 4 basically looks like this. So if you can flip to that page, let's take a look, and we'll start with a little bit of anatomy just so you get familiar with what we call things in the kit. So I'll kind of start in the top left corner. That large piece, we've got a metal thickness stop, and so that allows us, when we're actually drilling and using the drill bit, it goes metal on metal. So there's plastic and metal in this jig. We got to be real careful, but they designed it well for both accuracy and for longevity, which is cool. The easy set stop collar. So anytime I talk about a collar or a stop collar, that's the piece we're talking about. Little round flange. It has a little Allen wrench key. It'll make a whole lot more sense when we get into it. Then of course we got the drill bit. You should be familiar with that. But if you look at it, you go, I've never seen a drill bit look like that before. It's an absolute proprietary custom drill bit just for their jig, and you can see how it has a pre-pilot hole, and then it's got an outside diameter, and man, it is super sharp, so be real careful when you're pulling it out and checking it out. But you'll see real quick how easily it cuts this accurate pocket hole. We've got this long extension, this drill bit extension, driver bit extension, and then we've got this little gauge tool, which has something that we can measure our thickness with, and then it has the hex wrench that we use to tighten things up. Okay, so those are the main components, and we'll get into a little bit of the how-tos. But what I'd like us to do right now is let's get ready, and on the screen you see in orange, you're gonna pull the 4 pieces of pine that are 1x3, okay? So if you remember back when we started practicing our cuts, we were cutting on these pieces, and we have now cut them all to exactly 13 inches in length. So not only did we practice with them, but now we're gonna build something out of them. So it's a multi-purpose situation. So what we're gonna do as we get into the process of our jig is we're gonna take this little tool right here, which has multifunction, but on one side you can see it has a cool little scale. And so step 1, when we're setting up our jig system, we have to measure the thickness of whatever we're gonna be drilling into. So if you take your little tool and you hold it on the side of the board, how do I show you? Like that, you're gonna be able to see that our material is exactly 1/2 an inch thick, okay? So each time, if you're gonna be mixing materials, you could take that tool, double check and go, okay, 1/2 of an inch, and now we're gonna start setting up the material. So step number 2, we're going to go ahead and set up the stop collar. So if you want to grab your cool little tool, okay, so you've got the drill bit and already attached right there, that's the collar. And so take your hex key you're at there, and you're going to just loosen that a smidge, and then that'll allow the collar to slide on the shaft. Now the cool news is, if you look on the shaft, you see 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, what's the last one? 1.5 inches. So those are the 3 most common thicknesses of dimensional lumber that we buy at our lumber yard and home centers. So what we're going to do is you're going to slide that collar down until you see the 1/2 inch line up in the little circle. Pretty straightforward. So line it up with that 1/2 inch little circle, take your hex key and tighten that little bad boy pretty snug. Don't have to crank it down, but you want it to stay in place so that now that has been calibrated. They've done all the engineering for us. All we have to do is make sure we set it on the right thickness. I like it. Simple, simple. Okay. I'm going to switch views real quick and bring us over to the deck, and we're going to start working through kind of the next steps here. So now I've got that done. Now we're going to take a look at the jig itself. And we have to make just one more adjustment to the actual jig itself here. Actually 2. So you can see what we got here. It looks like it has multiple parts, which it does, because it does a lot of stuff. So later tonight or tomorrow, you can thumb through, and back on page 8, I think, or 7 or 8, it shows you all of the different combinations we can work with this tool. For example, we can build brand new things like we're building tonight. Furniture, frames, fine furniture, whatever we need to put together, shelving, cabinetry, all this great stuff, and it's set up perfectly to do that. We can also fix things that are already broken in our house. So that little piece of wood that broke off the staircase that you don't know how to reattach it, once you get through tonight, you can twist, unlock, and I can separate, and I can use just one piece. In fact, I can take this piece off as well. Where's the slide? There it is. And if I needed to get into a little tiny corner and clamp that to it and then drill my pocket hole, this kit allows us a lot of flexibility, okay? So, but for tonight, don't get too excited, Van Winkle. Stay on target, okay? So what we're gonna do, and what I want you to do right now is, it comes in the kit, and you can see how you twist, lock, and then snap. So it's kind of a 3 movement that you're gonna do. So if I'm holding this in my left hand, what we need to do is, for us tonight, we're gonna take out that center piece because we need to have our 2 holes aligned as close as possible. And so I'm gonna pull back. So I'm pulling back till it clicks, and then I rotate this way, and then it will release. Okay, so it's kind of like a Rubik's Cube. So you're gonna pull forward, rotate until you pull the one side off. Then we're gonna do the same thing. The center shaft, the center spacer right here, we're gonna go ahead, pull forward. So it pulls forward about 1/4 inch, and then turn, and then remove the second piece. Okay, so that we can just put back in our kit because we're not going to use that tonight. And now we're going to reattach and put these both together. So you can kind of see how they match up. We've got a pin here that's going to fit into that slot, and so we're going to rotate until it goes in flush, and then we're going to rotate together, and then we're going to slide it back so that it all locks in, and we should have it looking like that. All right, perfecto. I'm just looking at video. Everybody's showing. Excellent. Okay, now, last but not least, if we come down to this side, you're going to see those same increments, right? 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1.5 inches. How thick is our material? Half, baby. Okay, so these little gray little tabs, if you push down on it, it will slide and lock into the proper increment. So for us, we're going to slide it all the way forward So we push down, we slide that bad boy all the way forward until it clicks and locks in the first position, and you'll see a little gray. I'm so thankful they did that. See how they color coded it? So we got gray plastic, blue plastic, so that when we hold it up like that, you go, I can't make a mistake. If I kind of know what I'm doing, exactly, Shanna, we're like, got it, okay? Lining up, matching up, 1/2 inch material, 1/2 inch layout here, collar at 1/2 inch. Now we're ready to drill, which is super fun. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put our little tool away. We don't need that. And we're gonna close up our case so we don't get a bunch of junk inside of the case. And then we're gonna get ready to drill our first pocket holes. So we've set up our jig. We're gonna make our next step there, number 2, is of the 4 pieces that we cut, what I want you to do is do a little inspection and put them in matched sets. Matched sets meaning they match the length, because you may have a set of boards that are a little shorter maybe, like these are a little shorter right here. And so I'm gonna keep my 2 short ones together and then keep these 2 together because they create a better pair. And I'm gonna give you some more vocabulary tonight. And you can see it there on the screen. So one of these sets is gonna be for our rails, and one of these sets is gonna be for our stiles. And if you're familiar with cabinetry, excuse me, this is language if we're building doors and drawer fronts, and we're using rails, go horizontally, stiles, go vertically, and that's how we can determine parts and pieces. Typical doors, of course, on cabinetry are rectangles, longer than shorter, and so therefore your stiles typically are going to be your longest piece, and then your rails go on top. Tonight, what we're going to do, they're all the same length, but we want them in matched pairs, okay? The little picture insert down there, you can see kind of ahead of time of what the actual pocket hole looks like from the jig that we just set up. So you see those tandem little recessed holes that are at an angle, and all of a sudden that is the beauty of this jig, is that it allows us, even with 1/2 inch material, this isn't very thick, the angle that we're drilling in creates a way to take a 1¼ inch screw and attach our stiles and our rails without splitting out or driving a screw through the backside of our rails, which is super important. After you've taken the time to precision cut everything and shape it and get it ready, and then you drill it and it breaks out the back. That's never a good day. So I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate for you on the table how this works, and then I'll have you guys go for it. So the good news is, one set you can just set aside. We don't do anything with the rails, so we can set those aside. On our stiles, we're gonna put a set of pocket holes on both ends of both pieces. So we're gonna drill a total of 8 to get this thing put together. And here is how it's gonna work. Because we're gonna use our same quick clamps to both hold the wood down and hold our jig in place. It's a 2-in-1, okay? So now what I've got is, here's the gray little stoppers. This edge right here is gonna go against the end of our board. So if I just simply lay that flat, bring it up until it stops against that edge. Now I've got the depth that I need. And then what I'm gonna do is, we don't need to measure this, we're just gonna eyeball it, you guys. So here's the good news. This isn't a piano. We can be plus or minus 1/8 of an inch. But when you lay this up, you can see equal distance from here to here. I like it, I've got it squared off, so then I can take my clamp, and just behind those open triangles right here, that you don't want to clamp over the top, because that's actually where it ejects the sawdust. So you just want to be just down from it, but I can clamp that in place, and now I'm ready to actually drill this in, okay?
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely, please.
So I've got this one that has sort of a hole in it there, and then this one is a little rough on this side. Do I want the damaged side facing up or down?
Excellent question, excellent. Damaged side down, because that's going to be what's going to go up against the wall. So we're going to try to hide any of our lumber imperfections against the wall. And so she brings up an excellent point. Every single time you pick up a piece of wood that was made out of a natural tree, it's all going to be different. I have one that has a little chunk out of the side right here. So I'm making a choice as a builder. Where am I going to put that? How am I going to bury it and make sure it's not seen or doesn't cause any problems? So in that process of making your match sets, also take a look at, again, what might be the best angle and how to assemble your box. Now, please understand that.
Mike, one more.
Yeah, go for it, Spencer.
You want to drill on the damaged side.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Please be aware, all of this that we're drilling on is the side facing the wall. So if I've got a damaged piece, like I got this little thing here where the sticker is. Well, if I don't want to peel that sticker off, or the sticker doesn't come off, which I hate that. Don't you guys hate that?
It's on the good side on all of mine.
The sticker?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I know.
And as you can tell, I'm sitting here trying to peel the sticker, and because it's pine, I'm actually putting divots in my wood because it's so soft. So all of those little factors, I'm going to say that's going to be against the wall. That's going to be the side that I'm actually going to drill the pocket holes in. So excellent attention to detail, y'all. And I'm going to just double check my pieces here that I picked. So the two that I were going to use for my stiles, I like it. That one's going to be going backwards. So damaged side kind of up, and then I can go through this same process where I can go ahead and lay this out, take my jig, make sure the gray plastic stops are against the end of the board, hold it with one hand so it stays where you want it, bring your clamp in, clamp it in place, and now we're ready to set up our drill, okay? So on the drill, if you have it, we're going to go ahead and remove, of course, our multi-tool, because we're not going to need that right now. What we're going to install is our drill bit. So this, if you can see, it has the same kind of hex shape. It should slide right into your chuck because it's the same shape as our multi-tool. And then let's go ahead and tighten our chuck down and get that drill bit into place. We're going to take our clutch setting here, everybody, and we're going to go ahead and turn it all the way clockwise until we put it in the drill mode. So this is one time where you probably want to go ahead and engage the motor and take the clutch out of the mix so that you don't have any jamming or loss of torque as you're drilling your holes, okay? So pretty straightforward, but that is the setup on the tool. Now the good news is you can see where we've got the blue plastic and then the inside shaft is a combination of metal. So we're going to go metal on metal, and so we're not going to actually damage this when we actually place our jig in. So before I actually trigger, you can see what's going to happen. It's going to channel down the first 1.5 inches, and that's going to set basically your angles and your approach. And so you can see that in the top view. I can bring that in. I want to make sure that I'm in charge of lining it up front to back and top to bottom. I don't want to pinch the cutting blade against the inside shaft, and so I'm going to set kind of my hand position before I trigger by just sliding it in and trying to get that angle where it needs to be. Once I have it in place, I'm going to go ahead and just put my second hand here so I can have a little leverage. I'm going to trigger the tool, and I'm just going to gently push. Keep the tool spinning as you back it out. That helps eject the sawdust, and that is as simple as it is. There's our first pocket hole. Then I just move over, line it up, take it in a little bit, trigger, push, keep it triggered, pull and remove. When we remove our clamp, ladies and gentlemen, there it is. Pocket holes are us, okay? So you can see how the depth is set. It has the inside shaft, and then it has the outside diameter, and it will not, in our case, actually pilot hole all the way through, and that's totally okay, because the specialized screws that we're using are self-tapping screws, which basically means it's a drill bit and a screw at the same time. And so the screw actually finishes the distance through the first material and then bores itself into the second material. Doesn't split it normally. If all goes well, we'll be in good shape, okay? So one side is done, so now I can just rotate 180 and repeat the process, and we will be ready to go. So if you guys want to at this point, you can go ahead and join in the building here. You can just keep watching and learning, or you can start pocket holing as I'm kind of talking this way through, okay? So the second side is set up, same deal. Slide it into the shaft first, set your angle, trigger full blast, push in gently, keep the tool running as you pull back out, and that will eject all of the sawdust. And you can see once you get this dialed in, how quickly we can move through the process of pocket holing. So go ahead and keep working. I'm going to do my second style here so that I can show you how we're going to do the assembly. And if there's any questions, just unmute. I'll look over every once in a while and see what's going on. Shelby, thank you. Appreciate that.
I don't know why I've been using those upside down my entire life, apparently. Every time I have to let myself.
I know, and I'm like safety police because I see it from across the shop. It happened today, same thing. We had like 9 clamps on this thing and 8 of them were on. And they were trying to reach in and around it, and so this thing's like right around their neck. So it does happen. What we're talking about, you guys, again, is keep the safe round end facing you, keep the stabby pointy end down. All right, so working on the second piece, clamping that in place, line up the tool. There's one, there's 2. Excellent. You can see how I'm just kind of tapping and clearing everything. Just helps keep some of the mess out of the way. Again, if you get debris and sawdust and anything underneath your jig, that's going to cause it to bore the hole incorrectly. So make sure, again, everything is clear before you put your jig on, so you've got straight, flat contact on both the jig to the work surface to the piece you're working on. Super good. Drill. Drill. All right, that is the total we need for our 2 styles. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this sawdust off my workspace because the next thing we're going to do is mission critical to have our workspace nice, flat, and clean, okay? Flat and clean means as we start to assemble these pieces, we can be confident that if we clamp 2 pieces down to our work surface, it's going to be flat and flush against the frame side, and that's what we want when we're assembling. When we take it all apart and we hold it up, all those 4 corners and joints will be nice, flat, and flush. That is our goal when we're making picture frames and such. Okay, so our next step that we're going to do once we've got all of our pocket holes drilled is that we're going to be using the 1 1/2 inch pocket hole screws that I talked to you about before. So they're in your kit. You can grab it. It's a little container. It's a full box. And so go ahead and grab that container and pull it out. And we're going to need a total of 8 of those screws to complete our frame. And then you can see on the screen, I just wanted to give you the visual with how we're going to use our clamps. So 2 clamps minimum per every corner that we're attaching. So the first clamp is holding the secondary piece that we're attaching to flat and to the work deck. The second one, if you're seeing there, it is splitting the difference between the style that we're trying to attach and the second piece that we're attaching to. So mission critical in the design of this tool is we need pressure at the point where those 2 pieces are coming together. And guess what? Our quick clamps with a little rectangle shape makes it super easy to split the difference. We're putting the clamp over the seam and then we're going to drive the screws and attach them. Okay, so that's the visual. Now let me go back here and we'll get this thing set up so you can see actually how it works. So now I'm going to take my first style and then I'm going to grab my first rail. And if you are a right-handed tool user, this is how you want to set it up, because I'm going to put my tool in my right hand and I'm going to be driving the screws into the pocket hole here. So always, always, if you can, arrange your work so that it best fits you as an operator and how the force and the direction of what we're trying to do. Okay, so I'm going to set this up kind of on the edge. I'm going to bring my first clamp in and reach over and clamp down. I'm going to bring it a little closer. Clamp it on the rail and kind of push it to the back if you can. Now, I am holding this together right here, and just by feel, I'm picking up a little situation here. This piece is thinner than this piece. I don't know why, it's just the way my wood was. I'm not too worried about it because this is the back of the frame. What is totally cool is that the front is going to be perfectly flush because I'm going to hold that flush to the work surface. I want it flush out here on the corner, and then I'm going to take my second clamp and I'm going to go right over those seams. And they can't be covering up the pilot holes, but we need them, you can have them really close. So that's my clamping setup. I don't want them covering up our pilot hole here because we're driving our screw in horizontally, and that is going to be our first setup. Now we can come back to our tool, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to remove our cool pocket jig drill bit. We're going to go back into our kit. Now here's the cool thing. Everything has a place in these kits, right? So just lay your drill bit back in that little slot, and then right next to it you're going to see the driver tool, which is that sweet little bad boy. And we can load that back into our tool. So into the chuck, tighten down the teeth, super important. Never drive pocket holes when it's in the drill mode. Woo-hoo! You'll notice real quick, a lot of torque in this tool. That's how we're going to break out and split. If we overdrive these specialty screws, we're going to mess up our work and we'll have to start over. So let's go ahead and take that clutch and back it down. Let's just split the difference. Let's just put it on a 10 to start, and we'll see if that gives us enough torque to drive into our cool little soft pine here, okay? So I'm going to grab my package of screws. So if you haven't seen them, that's what they look like. They haven't been opened yet, so that was the first test if you figured out how to open the cool container. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, I'll just show you. On these corners, the white clear plastic underneath, you have to break that corner off. And just remove it, toss it in the trash can, and now all of a sudden, in my case, top right corner, I can then grab that little edge and open it, and look at that. It's one of the coolest containers. I've dropped these off the workbench and it didn't like go lid pop off and throw my screws all over the place. So kudos to Craig Tools again for giving us even cool containers. So 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, so we need 8 of these little bad boys, and then we can put our lid back on and we can put that back in our kit, and we are ready to rock and roll. Now you're going, why in the world do we have 6.5 inches of stem when I just need to be screwing right here? Well, here's the answer. The angle that we need to drive this screw is extreme. In other words, it's really shallow and long. I've got all of this body of the tool plus the chuck, and if I didn't have enough extension, I couldn't get that nice steep angle. I'd be coming in too high and too steep, and we wouldn't be able to drive the screw properly. So the whole key to this is that you keep the shaft of the screw, the shaft of the driving bit, all at the proper angle that that screw fits into the pocket hole. Now, if I just push that screw in, it will use the countersink that was built into the drill bit to help establish the right angle. So what it will look like is the head of the screw, that round part right there, is going to sit right down in the round part of the channel we just dug out, right, with our drill bit. If this is sitting high and proud like that, it's wrong. It needs to be sitting nice and flush. And matter of fact, probably the easiest way to do it is just to preset it with your fingers, because you can feel when it slides into the pilot hole, and then you can just give it a little push, and all of a sudden the angle is set properly for you. Okay, so preset, and then now I bring my driver bit down, I set it into the square drive, and then I'm just making sure my angle is all parallel and driving in that same direction. And then here we go. I'm going to put my left hand on the outside just to give me a little leverage, and it's just short little bursts. Okay, there it is. That clutch setting was a 10, and that looks like I can see it draw itself together. It didn't overdrive, so a 10 looks pretty darn good. Okay, so let's remove and see how we did. So there it is. If I rotate around, look at that nice, clean, tight joint, flush on the edges, no glue, no fancy joining, the same screw gun I've been using my entire life, and a new little pocket hole jig, and I'm making professional grade drawer boxes, picture frames, kitchen cabinet doors and drawers, you name it, okay? That's all there is to it. It's called a butt joint. If you wanted to make it a little bit stronger, you could add wood glue to those two settings, right? Squeeze it together, clamp it, drive it, and I tell you what, you'll be breaking the wood before you'll break that seam. I've tried it, because it's a challenge for my students. They start chucking these around the wood shop. They're like, I'm gonna break it, Mr. V. I go, no, you're not. You're gonna break the wood before you break your joint, and that is what is super cool about this little setup. Okay, so got one done. Now I'm going to rotate everything, because now I'm going to be building something bigger. So I'm going to rotate this way and start by grabbing my second rail, right? Because we're attaching our rails to our stiles. So I can go ahead and line this up. So same process. I'm lining up this outside edge nice and flush. I'll get my first clamp on that side. And then I'll just realign and make sure I'm nice and flush and I like it. Take my second clamp and split the difference right there, nice and firm. Take my screw and I'm gonna go ahead and set it by hand first. Boom and boom. And then I'm gonna go ahead and do this left-handed, you guys. You could do it right-handed. You could go in here like this. Let's just do that. So then I get the head of my screw attached to my driver, check my angle, and drive. Excellent. Excellent. So you're hearing me drive it and then hit the clutch at least 2 or 3 more times, and that just gives it a little more torque so that it sets that screw and pulls everything in nice and tight. Now, if you're having trouble actually making that a tight joint, you may need to take your clutch and bring it up a click or two. But for right now, mine seems to be creating a nice tight joint working with the clutch setting on a 10. Okay, so now we've got 2. Now we rotate 180 and we repeat the process, right? This time we're going to slide it to the inside. Okay, so we're going to put our first clamp on that piece. Excellent. Second clamp, once we get it lined up nice, hold it with my left thumb, bring over my clamp, and anchor that down. Set 2 more screws by hand, 1, 2, and drive those puppies. Excellent. All right, one more side. Rotate this over. Now, depending on how well we cut our 90-degree miters, will tell us what happens when we get to this side right here. So you can see where I'm at. It lined up pretty dang close, so I'm kind of excited about that. But if it doesn't, here's what your correction is. You're just gonna clamp your rail, and then you're just gonna move the stile with your hand until you get it where you want it. So I'm flushing that outside, and then hold it while you grab your clamp, and then give that a nice tight squeeze, and whatever adjustment you needed to make will hold that next inside 90, and voila, our hands are free then to set our last 2 screws, and we're ready to drive this thing. And ladies and gentlemen, in under, that was less than, I don't know, 20 minutes, right? We've got ourselves a beautiful frame to start off our day, okay? So we now have the step-through process to make a nice looking picture frame, okay? So on the back side, the nice thing is, again, this is going to be against the wall. We don't have to worry about plugging or covering our screw heads in this particular build. And so right now we've got a roughed in frame that's ready for sanding, prep, and finish. Okay. We're going to be doing next session the layout and the pre-drilling for the shelf that's going to be going in here. So don't move forward too much further past this, because I don't want you to be sanding and finishing and then we're still drilling. And again, we don't want to get ahead of the process and have to redo work. But for next session, let's get our frames built, and then next session we'll build the shelf, we'll lay it out, pre-drill it, attach it, and then add our hanger hardware, and then we're ready to set it aside until the last class to finish it. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the wonderful world of pocket holes.